Thank you.
No problem. All right. Good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank you for submitting your reports. I didn't get a chance to go through it. I just looked at them that you have submitted. I will review your reports for the project, and hopefully by tonight, I will send you an email with my comments, if there is any, and also your score for your project. Regarding the test number 2 was by far much better than the first test. That made me very happy. Unfortunately, there were 3 people decided not to take a test for whatever reason. And overall, 3 people did not do too good. They were in 50s. But we had a lot of people, few in hundreds and a lot of people in 90s and high 80s. And that was very good. One of the biggest problem I had, again, was you guys not paying attention to the scanned document. I received 4 of your report that had a black background that I really couldn't see. I had a very hard time grading them. This is the last warning. If you submit your final exam like that, trust me, I will not, absolutely not, grade them. Just give you 0. I'm sorry about that, but I have not, there's nothing I can do. If I cannot read it, I cannot, score it. And the audacity of some people, when I send them an email that this is all black and I cannot see it, and then I get an email and respond that that's the best I can do. Wow. That's the best you can do? Is that your answer? I mean, that is insult my intelligence. Rather than say, sorry, I tried to make it better, or something happened or whatever. The answer is that's the best I can do. Take it or leave it. I should have given that guy a big fat zero. Didn't. But there will be next time. Final exam. I mean, it's 2021. The app for scanning is free. You can download it on your phone and you can do a good job of scanning. I have 36 people, in the class. There are 32 of them doing a great job scanning the document. They're all legible and clear and no problem. And 2 or 3 or maybe 4, they're still not getting it. And that's beyond my comprehension, that why you guys really don't care. And I cannot understand the attitude of a senior engineering student, knowing that this course is very important to them, and they have to pass it with a good grade, just for their future, and really don't care and don't pay attention. That is beyond my understanding. In any event, I'm going to go over the problems, and if you have any question, I will answer that. The problem number 1, 3 people really did not understand or did not read the problem carefully. If you read the problem, it's bolded in italics as simple ranking cycle. It didn't say simple ideal ranking cycle. However, most of them, they put the 0.3 right at the saturated vapor line. That's not the simple ranking cycle. So that was a big error. From 100 points, I gave you 32 points for free. 7 points for doing this TS diagram, copying it from your textbook. And the other, 25 points, again, just copying it from your textbook and getting a free point. And yet, I have one student solve one problem, only one problem, and then he left a note that I ran out of time. Come on, you're embarrassing yourself. You solved one problem and you ran out of time. It is obvious that you didn't study, you weren't prepared. We talk about this preparation for the test. It's 80% of your effort. The other 20% is for your study. You can't just come in and just sit there without being ready and being prepared and having everything right in front of you and take a test and expect to score very high. It won't happen. The people who were prepared and did the study, they did fantastic. They all did a good grade, and that was great. But the rest of you just didn't pay attention. In any event, the first problem is very easy. Yes. Did someone have a question? All right, it was a simple ranking cycle. 10 kilopascal on the condenser, 10 megapascal at the boiler, 500 degrees temperature at the boiler. And we wanted to find the thermal efficiency and the mass of a steam. I couldn't do easier than this. Very straightforward. Again, state one, we have P1 equal to 10 kilopascal, and X1 is equal to 0. And we go to regular table, H1, which is H of F, and V1, which is V of F, 0.00101 meter cubic per kilogram. And this is 9181 kilojoule per kilogram. That's the first state. State two, work of a pump is equal to H2 minus H1, which is V1 times P2 minus P1. Once again, a lot of people make that mistake. We talk about it, please. This is 10 megapascal, this is 10 kilopascal. You need to convert either this one to megapascal or that one to kilopascal in order to have the right answer. A lot of people put 10 minus 10 is 0, so everything's 0, so H1 is equal to H2. That's impossible. How could H1 and H2 be the same? Again, I told you everything is a common sense. This has a higher temperature, this has a lower temperature. It must have a higher value than H1. One last thing, a lot of people still don't understand the last point of a cycle is always in a mixture. If you recall at the beginning of the chapter 10, I asked you to write that note, the last point of a cycle, regardless, without exceptions, going to be in a mixture. However, a lot of people put 0.4 in a superheated region, or put a 0.4 right on a saturated vapor line. These are the small things that you don't pay attention and you lose point. However, when they did the calculations, they consider that point in a mixture. So your TS diagram and your solution, they have to match. One other thing, it was funny. Somebody started 0.1 up there, 2 here, 3 and 4. Why? 0.1 is a source. If you read the problem, you cannot have 0.1 of the superheated region. Yes, these points, this numbering is arbitrary, but it has to make sense. It needs to respond to what you have. You could call this A, B, C, D, that's fine. As long as the relationship are correct. You can't just arbitrarily just put 1, 2, 3, 4 in your cycle. I don't know why you do that. So please, don't do that. Here, if you plug everything in, again, this should be 10,000 kilopascal minus 10, multiply by that, adding H1 to it, you find the value of H2 to be 201.90 kilojoule per kilogram. That's your second H. At state 3, you have P3 equal to 10 megapascal, and temperature is equal to 500 degrees Celsius. You go to superheater table, and you find the value of H3 to be 3375.1 kilojoule per kilogram, and S3 value would be 6.5995 kilojoule per kilogram degree Kelvin. And state 4, we have P4 equal to 10 kilopascal, and S4 being equal to S3, Now we're going to find the S of F of G, H of F of G. H of F is very simple. It's the same as H1, which is 191.81. Now, the S of F value is 0.6492, and S of F of G is 7.4996, and H of F of G is 2392.1. From this side, you'll find X4 being equal to S4 minus S of F divided by S of F of G. That will give you the value of X4 to be 0.7934. So H4 value would be H of F plus X4 times H of F of G, and therefore you find the value of H4 to be 2089.7 kilojoule per kilogram. That's another thing. Somebody wrote, I assume H4 is so-and-so. There is no assumptions here. It's a simple calculation that you need to go through this process. You cannot make an assumption. I told you can make an assumption, but you have a hard time finding the value from the table. You're not going to the table to find the H4 value, so you cannot make assumptions. Now that you have all the H values, the Q in, not Q in. Q in is H3 minus H2. This will give you a value of 3173.2 kilojoule per kilogram. Your Q out would be H4 minus H1. And that value would be 1897.9 kilojoule per kilogram. If you want to find the network, that would be the difference between them, Q in minus Q out. That will give you the network of 1275.4 kilojoule per kilogram. So now you have all these values. So the thermal efficiency would be the network divided by Q in, and this will give you 40.2% efficiency. The mass flow rate is big W dot net, which was given to you, divided by small w dot net. And again, a lot of people make this mistake. Here we have 210 megawatt. 210 megawatt is equal to 210,000 kilowatt, which we call a kilojoule per second. If you just put 210 divided by this, you're going to get a fraction of the point. Again, if you have a megapascal, you convert it to kilopascal. You have a megawatt, you convert it to kilowatt or kilojoule per second in order to have a correct solution, correct answers. And small mistakes like that, it's very costly. That shows that, again, I'm not grading you for your answers. If you look at your paper, I was very generous giving you a grade because of your approach, because of the process that you took in order to solve the problem. even when your answer was completely out of whack. But it has to be a reason. You cannot say H1 is equal to H2 because that is a big no-no. When you put in this equation, you put 10 minus 10, obviously that the whole thing is 0, so H2 is equal to H1. You make that kind of a mistake, it's unforgivable. You put 0.4 in a superheated region or a saturated vapor line. That's a big mistake. You lose point. Any questions?
Professor, you said the TS diagram is worth 7 points, right?
In this problem, the TS diagram worth 7 points, yes.
Okay.
Now, problem number 2 was a reheat cycle. Fortunately, most of you understood that and did a good job, and that made me happy. Few made, again, mistake on their TS diagram and also in some of their calculations. Once again, 0.6 is in the superheated last point of the cycle. A lot of people did not pay attention to that. And this was very straightforward. Look at the numbers. 10 megapascal, 10 kilopascal. See all of those numbers that you had on the first problem, you could have used it here if you really would have paid attention. I could not make this test easier than that. Giving you all the information so you can do it much faster, much easier if you pay attention. But you're so anxious to crunch numbers, you don't even read the problem. Now, a lot of people put 0.4 in a mixture or put it in a saturated vapor. I give you a hint. If you have a pressure that is greater than 600 kilopascal, that point is automatically superheated. The pressure of the reheat is 1 megapascal. There is no way that 0.4 going to be in a mixture area. But a few people went ahead, did the calculation, find out that X4 is greater than 1, and still continue to solve the problem without going back to the superheated table, find a value for H4. You can do that. And these are small things that you don't pay attention, it's going to come back and, haunt you. Once again, state 1. We have P1 equal to 10 kilopascal, X1 is equal to 0. Again, we have H1, 191.81 kilojoule per kilogram, and V1 is 0.00101 meter cubic per kilogram. That's 1H. At state 2, work of a pump is H2 minus H1, which is V1 times P2 minus P1. You plug the number in, and H2 value once again becomes 201.9 kilojoule per kilogram. Everything that you have in the state 1 and 2 in the first problem, you have a state, right here. Now, Going to state 3, again, you have P3 equal to 10 megapascal, and T3 is equal to 500 degrees. On a superheated table, once again, you find the same H3 and S3 that you found on the first problem. 3375.1 kilojoule per kilogram, and that's 6.5995 kilojoule per kilogram degree Kelvin. At state 4, you have P4 equal to 1 megapascal and S4 being equal to S3. You're still in the superheated table, and from there you can find the value of H4 to be 2783.8 kilojoule per kilogram. Now, this is something, if you would have made an assumption, I accept that. A lot of you did that. A lot of you put a weird number and you forgot to write that you assume that's a number. And I told you that if you put a number and you don't write, I'm assuming, that means that's an actual number. And if it's not, then you're wrong. So make sure if you make an assumption, write your assumptions. You cannot just write some numbers and say, that's it, I assume. At state 5, we have P5 equal to 1 megapascal and T5 equal to 500 degrees Celsius. Now this one, you don't need to make an assumption because you have to find the value on the table. Now the value of H5 is 3479.1 kilojoule per kilogram, and the value of S5 is 7.7642 kilojoule per kilogram degree Kelvin. Now we go to state 6. Obviously, it's in the mixture. P6 is equal to 10 kilopascal, and S6 is equal to S5. Now we find S of F, S of F of G, H of F, H of F of G. Now, the S of F value, once again, everything you see here is identical to what you had, in the first problem. So the S of F value is still 0.6492, and this is 7.4996. This is, of course, 191.81. And that one is 2392.1. Again, from there, you will find the value of X4. I'm not going to write the equation again. The 0.9487. And the value, X6. And the value of X6 becomes 2461.2 kilojoule per kilogram. So that's your final one. Now, work of a turbine, there are 2 of them. That is equal to H3 minus H4 plus H5 minus H6. You plug the number in, the total work of a turbine would be 1609.3 kilojoule per kilogram. Now, the Qin which is H3 minus H2 plus the second part, which is H5 minus H4. That's the definition of a reheat. You have Q of the boiler plus Q of the reheat. And that Qin value would be 68.5 kilojoule per kilogram. Now, work of a pump, of course, is H2 minus H1, and that value is 10.09 kilojoule per kilogram. Your net work would be work of a turbine minus work of a pump, and that net work value is 1599.3 kilojoule per kilogram. To find the thermal efficiency, you have the net work, you divide it by Qin, and you get 41.3%. To find the mass of the steam, that would be big W dot net divided by small W net that you find up here. So if you divide those numbers, again, a lot of people just put 80. 80 divided by 15993. That's 80,000 kilojoule per second. This is kilojoule per kilogram. The kilojoule cancel. So the result would be kilogram per second. So that gives you the value of approximately 50 kilogram per second. That's the last part of the problem. Any questions? This X4 was part A. I guess this was part B, and this is part C of the problem. Now, the next problem is open feed water heater. So let me Now, in this problem, 0.6 was in a mixture. Why? Because the value of the pressure for open feed water heater was 500 kilopascal, I'm sorry, and that is less than 600, therefore 0.6 going to be in the mixture. Once again, this is 10 kilopascal, 10 megapascal. So a lot of information you have on the first problem and second problem. You can use it here, a lot of values that you already found. That's how you take advantage and manage your time, and you can solve the problem much quicker and much faster without running out of time. So this is 500 kilopascal or 0.5 megapascal, however you want it. And once again, this temperature remain at 500 degrees Celsius. So at point 1, I'm going to have 198 and 0.0101. Now here, H2 is going to be changed. Why? Because P2 now is 500 kilopascal, not 10 megapascal. Therefore, the value of H2 is going to be different. The H2 in this time would be 192.3 kilojoule per kilogram. For 0.3, I have P3 equal to 500 kilopascal and X3 is equal to 0. Therefore, the value of H3 would be 600, 640 0.09 kilojoule per kilogram, and value of V3 would be 0.001093 meter cubic per kilogram. So that's 0.3. 0.4 is my second pump. Now, the work of a pump 2 is equal to H4 minus H3, which is equal to V3 times P4 minus P3. From there, you can find the value of H4 to be 650.47 kilojoule per kilogram. So that's the H4, and then it's H3. Now in state 5, I have P5 equal to 10 megapascal, and T5 is equal to 500 degrees Celsius. Once again, from superheater table, I have the same value that I had in the first problem and second problem. H5 would be 3375.1 kilojoule per kilogram, and S5 would be 6.5995 kilojoule per kilogram degree Kelvin. Now the state 6, you have P6 equal to 500 kilopascal and S6 being equal to S5. You find the S of F of G, H of F of G. Now, H of F would be the same as H3 because they're in the same line, same pressure line. So that would be 640.09. Now I have to find the other three values. In this case, S of F is 1.8604. S of F of G is 4.9603. And H of F of G is 2108. From there, I can find the value of x of 6. We'll call it at 0.6 to be 0.9554. And once you plug it in, the value of H6 would be 2654.1 kilojoule per kilogram. Now, state 7, last state, which is in this mixture, we have P7 equal to 10 kilopascal and S7 being equal to S5. Once again, we find the S of F of G, H of F, and H of F of G. Value of S of F is same as before, 6492. S of F of G, again, 7.4996. H of F is the same as H1, which is 191.81. And H of F of G is 2392.1. From here, we can find X7 value to be 0.7934, and H7 value becomes 2089.7 kilojoule per kilogram. Now we have all the H values. The next thing we need to find the Y value. Again, I told you, we don't have an equation that Y is equal to H6 minus H2 divided by H3 minus H2. That's not an equation. It's an expansion of what you do. You have to show your work. You can't just write something like that and say, okay, this is an answer. That's not acceptable. You need to show your engineering process. The first thing we do, summation of all energy coming in is equal to summation of all energy going out. Now you have N2 H2 plus M6 H6 going in, N2 H2 going in, and N3 H3 will come out. So that's N2 H2 going there, M6 coming in, and N3 going out. You call this one a Y, H6 plus. This is 1 minus Y, because Y going this direction, 1 minus Y going that direction, times H2 has to be equal to 1 unit times H2. From this relationship, you find the value of Y to be equal to 0.1819. Now that we have the value of Y, we can find Q in. Q in has 1 unit, and that is H3 minus H4. That gives us a value of 24.1 kilojoule per kilogram. The Q out has 1 minus Y fraction times H7 minus H1, and that value would be 1550 kilojoule per kilogram. Our network would be Q in minus Q out, and that will give us a value of 1174.1 kilojoule per kilogram. To find the mass flow rate, again, is W dot net divided by a small w net. And again, this is 150,000 kilojoule per second divided by 1174 kilojoule per kilogram. So the mass flow rate becomes 127.8 kilogram per second. Finally, the thermal efficiency, since we have a network, just say network divided by Q in, and that will give you 43.1%. That's the final part. Again, if you would have read the problem carefully and you would have paid attention to all the things that were given to you, you would have taken advantage of all the similar information. Like this one had 15 points to just draw it out. You had 10 points for the TS diagram for reheat cycle. Total of 32 points by just doing the TS diagram, copying it from your textbook. So the test was easy, but some of you, went out of your way to make it hard. And I still cannot understand. You did it on the first exam, and some of you did it on the second. And all of that because you either didn't study or you weren't prepared. Now, before I forget, you have received an email from the school regarding the evaluation of your instructors. Not just me, all of your instructors, the courses that you take. Please pay attention to that. You already have the link, follow the directions, do your evaluation for all your courses, classes that you take. Your constructive criticism will help us to understand better, to do better next semester. And you are basically helping yourself. So make sure, please, you do that. Any questions on these? No.
I have a question, Professor.
Sure.
Is Qn supposed to be H5 minus H4, not H3?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. My bad. I didn't check. This is H5. Thank you. Yeah, I misread that one as a 3, and I always, when I solve a problem, I always put all my information in one TS diagram, so I don't have to keep looking at, problems and start reading it. Because the way you should do that, you read the problem carefully, you do your TS diagram, and step by step, you transfer the information that you have and you put it in the TS diagram. So you don't have to worry about going back and reading it again. Because everything that you wanted, it's right up in front of you. Because I thought that was 3, bad handwriting, and that's what I did. I put H3 instead of H5. I was kind of surprised when I was writing it, but I thought, well, apparently it's okay. Thanks anyway for bringing that up. Any other questions? Anything that you wanted me to explain? Okay, I emailed you the homework number 4, which is only 2 problems. Those are two for you to practice to get that 15 extra points, basically, or 15 free points for your final exam. Now, the next couple of classes that we have left, I'm going to review chapter 9, chapter 10, and chapter 11. And while we're doing that, I tell you exactly what's going to be on your final exam. So this way, hopefully, you're much more prepared. One thing that I still don't understand, there were a couple of people that they did not tell me any homework at all. I don't know why, because it's not pure advantage. You lose 10 valuable points. And when I look at it, those are the people who are not doing good on the test because they really don't care to do the homework. It's below them to do homework. And they're not realizing that they didn't do good on the first test and they didn't do good on the second test. And on top of that, now they don't have a good grade, they have to kill themselves to catch up and at least get a C grade to pass. They already lost 10 points. For no reason. So, if you are one of those people, please at least submit your final homework, get 2.5 points. It's better than nothing. That's my 2 cents. It's up to you guys. So that's our plan. Because we don't have time to cover any other chapters. Again, as I said, I'm gonna, by the way, we had 7 groups. When I look at the beach board, the Dropbox, I saw 8 response. I didn't get a chance to go through the details of it, but apparently one group submitted 2 reports. As I said, we need only 1 report per group, not 1 report per individual. That's not how it works. So I want to take a look at it. It's not a big deal. So you're not going to lose point because you submitted twice. But I want to read that, review it, and send you an email with my comments regarding your reports. I'm sure you guys did a fantastic job. So, well, you'll get your grade on the project as well as my comments, if any. If I don't have any comment, I just say, hey, everything looks fantastic and you did a great job. And your score is 20 out of 20. That's it. Any concern or questions about the test? Again, those 4 people who are having a hard time scanning a document, please do yourself a favor. If you're really having a problem or you don't know how to scan it right and correctly, please talk to one of your classmates, see how they are doing it, so you can learn from them, or what kind of an app they have, downloaded that it does much better than the one that you have on your phone. Because you don't want to lose 30% of your grade for final. So please don't do that to yourself. Just ask around, do your best to find a way to scan it correctly. So when you're submitting your test, to the beach board, so I can see it clearly and I can really give you a grade that you deserve, rather than, like, I got an email this morning that, well, sorry about the, my test, it was all black, you couldn't see. But I had the answer to the first problem. It was at the bottom, but it was black. You can see it. What do you want me to do? There is no way that I can read something that is completely black and to see whether you have an answer or not. So this is the problem. You're just doing it to yourself. I got a test back. I can see it right here in front of me. White in a black background. You can't do that. Please be careful, because according to the rule, I'm not allowed to contact you once you submit your test on your final exam. I cannot send you an email, say, hey, you made a mistake. This is white on black. I cannot read it. I cannot print it. It's all coming black and there's nothing there. So you can correct it. Or the background is all black. Or you forgot to submit one page. I cannot do any one of those. You cannot contact me either. So you're done. You take your final exam, I correct it, and I post your grade. We're done. So please, please, not for me, for your own sake, be very careful. The last two tests, a few people who had a problem, I contacted them, made a correction, I looked at it, I accepted it, and I graded them, and we move forward. I cannot do that on a final exam. I'm not allowed to contact you. You're not allowed to contact me. So don't think that you're going to submit something in black and white, the black background and with the white writing on it, and you think that I'm going to score it. Or I'm going to contact you again and you're going to correct it and you submit it. Please, you're uploading it, see what it looks like. If it doesn't look good to you, guess what? It's not going to look good to me. If you cannot read what you have uploaded, how do you expect me to read it and correct it and grade it? So we have talked about this several times. I know we are in a very difficult time. This is a situation that it's not your fault, it's not my fault, it's not school fault. We all got caught in the pandemic. It was unfortunate that our politicians, they politicized the pandemic rather than addressing the problem and solving it. We had a shutdown of the businesses, of the schools, and all that. And we have to deal with this situation online with a camera and a little board and all the difficulties that I go through at the same time you guys go through. Forget about me. I know that it's not fair to you guys. You guys are being cheated. You pay tuition, you wanted to learn a lot of things. And unfortunately, because of all this situation, you didn't get a chance to achieve that, to learn that. Because we didn't get a chance to finish the chapters that we wanted to. Because everything is slowed down. At school, I come to the board, I start writing from one end of it to another end. Anybody have questions, they can see it very clearly. There is no glare on the board. There is no problem with the camera. There is no problem with the Wi-Fi, none of those. So it's much easier when we were in person. I hope that the next semester we go back to school and things becomes normal. I hated this, and I'm 100% sure you guys hated this situation too. But I did my best to cope with it. And I'm 100% positive that you guys have done your best to cope with it. So we are getting close to the last point, to the last part of it. Let's just put our heads together. Let's pull it out, finish it, and get it over with. Keep our fingers crossed for the next semester so we can do much better. Both of us. I can do better. That's what I like to do. And you guys can learn more and do much better under regular circumstances. So those are some of the comments that I have. It's all for your own good. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not trying to belittle anyone. And you've seen me, never done that. I have utmost respect for every one of you. I said it over and over and over, that you guys do not give yourself enough credit. You guys are smart. You guys are not stupid, because if you were, you wouldn't be here. You are in the senior year, you're going to graduate, you're all going to have a fantastic career ahead of you. And I did my best to teach you that what you need to do in order to leave that student shell that you're in it right now and enter a new shell that is called engineering shell. Become an engineer. Start thinking outside the box and start thinking about overall solution of the problem rather than just grabbing your calculator and start crunching numbers, because crunching numbers is not going to get you anywhere. Your future is not crunching numbers. Yes, I'm sorry, we will do some crunching numbers, but 90% of the time, it's your engineering thought process that brings value to the table. If you go for an interview, for a job interview, nobody's going to give you a problem to solve and see if you have the correct answers or not. They ask you a question, they give you some problem. They said, how are you going to approach that? What are you going to do about that? And they want you to just think about it and come up with your engineering thought process and just say, okay, this is what I will do. And that's the value you bring to the table. Don't forget, we are engineers. We don't have anything to sell. What we have to sell is our brain. That's it. We got nothing else. If I was a salesman to sell the pen, my life would have been easy. I would just go around and show them the pen. They can touch it, they can see it. I can write on the board for them. And I make the sale and go to the next guy. Unfortunately, we don't have that. We don't have any tangible products that we can show them, we can demonstrate them. What we have, it's all stored in our brain. And in order to take that and put it across to another person, we have to articulate really, really, really well. Because if we can't, then we're not going to have a future. We're not going to have a job. And you guys didn't work that hard, didn't spend your money or your parents' money or whatever, or get a student loan, getting this far to become an engineer, just not to get the job? Of course not. That wasn't your intention. Your intention is bright future, and you do have a bright future. Just think about, just look at me. If I made it, you guys can do it 10 times better than me. I remember when we had a fax machine, we were so excited. Oh, we have a fax. We can write something and just fax it and the other guy get it at the same time. Things were different in my days. And I survived and I made the best of it. Today, you have everything at the tip of your fingers. Your little iPhone or Samsung phone, whatever you have, it's a mini computer. Then you can do so many things with it. So it's obvious that you guys can do better, and you will do better. As long as you have that understanding, trust me, you're going to be very successful, you're going to be great, and you're going to do fantastic. But if you don't give yourself enough credit and you keep putting yourself down, then you're going to have a problem. Just tap on your own shoulder once in a while. Just tell yourself that you're smart. You're great. But please, don't get cocky. Don't go crazy. However, just give yourself a credit. You worked very hard and you deserve great things that is ahead of you. Look at it that way. I can guarantee you, you're going to be successful. So I don't want to use an old cliche of a half glass full and half glass empty. None of those. Just give yourself enough credit because you already have those credit. You already built those credit for all that past 3-4 years that you worked so hard, studied so hard to get to this point. So don't let that slip away from you last second. You can do great things. I know for sure you can do great things. Anyway, please don't forget evaluating your instructors. I will see you on Wednesday. And we're going to go over the homework, last homework. And also, by that time, you will have your project result back, answering your questions about project if you have any. And if not, we're going to spend that time, we're going to start reviewing chapter 9, chapter 10, chapter 11, to refresh your memory and getting you ready for the final exam. Please don't forget your final test. It's on the 16th. No, I'm sorry, on the 17th, and it's at 8 o'clock. It's not 9:30. So please be ready. And again, this time you have 2 hours with 4 problems, which is reality. It's 3 problems, but this time you have 2 hours. And again, I give you 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. That makes it almost 2.5 hours. So I'm sure you're all going to ace the final exam. Final exam, going to be 1 problem from chapter 9, 1 problem from chapter 10, 1 problem from chapter 11. And of course, that problem from chapter 14, which is just looking at the chart in 2 minutes and putting the answers. Simple as that. For those of you who have any questions, concerned about your exam, you want to stick around for my office hour and talk to me, stick around. I'll be more than happy to respond and answer your questions. And the rest of you, you can have a great day, and I will see you Wednesday morning. Take care of yourself.
Have a good day, Professor.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you and have a good day.
You too. Thank you.